They say the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun, isn't a sword. It's a man who enjoys his own company. But what if that man is you? Have you ever walked into a room full of people and somehow felt more alone than when you're by yourself? You see them all, scrolling, swiping, laughing loudly, but none of it feels real. It feels noisy, hollow, like everyone's trying to escape something, while pretending they're perfectly fine. And maybe, just maybe, you've felt the urge to leave it all behind, to unplug, to go silent, not because you're broken, but because you want to find something deeper. If that sounds familiar, this isn't just a video, this is a mirror, and what you're about to see might change the way you see solitude forever. There's a reason they fear the man who walks alone, and by the end of this story, you'll understand exactly why. Thank you for being here. I hope you stay until the very last word, because what comes next is the part no one dares to say out loud. Picture this, a crowded coffee shop on a Tuesday afternoon, the kind with overpriced lattes, and the kind of people who talk louder when they know someone's listening. At one table, a group of friends is laughing, but it's the kind of laughter you post online for clout, not because you actually feel joy. At another, a couple poses for the third selfie in 5 minutes, carefully adjusting angles to prove to the world they're in love. And at the back, there's a man, alone, no phone in hand, no scrolling, no swiping, no searching, just him, a cup of black coffee, and a calm that unsettles the room. He's got earbuds in, but he's not listening to top 40 hits or TikTok recaps. He's listening to a philosophy audiobook, something about Marcus Aurelius and the discipline of desire. And if you watch closely, he's not trying to be seen. He's trying to disappear into thought, not running from loneliness, but running toward clarity. This man, he's not lonely. He's not desperate, he's not broken, he's dangerous, because in a world where everyone's chasing attention, he has nothing to prove. In a culture addicted to noise, he's found peace in silence. In a society that feeds off insecurity, he doesn't need anyone to tell him he's enough. And that is terrifying to people who can't be alone with their own thoughts for more than 30 seconds. You see, we've been trained not to think, but to scroll, not to reflect, but to react, not to be, but to be seen. And in that moment, in that coffee shop, that one man becomes a mirror, a silent threat, a quiet rebellion, because he reminds everyone what they've lost, a connection not to others, but to themselves. But how did we get here? When did solitude become something to fear? And who benefits from keeping us afraid of being alone? We're not done yet. This story is just beginning, but already you can feel it, can't you? You're not here by accident. You're here because something inside you is tired of the noise and ready to hear the truth. Let's go deeper. You've heard it your whole life. No one wants to be alone. Humans are social creatures. Find your other half. But what if that's not truth? What if that's marketing? Because here's the reality. Our entire social structure is built on one dangerous assumption: you are not enough, not by yourself. And that is the lie. Think about it. Every advertisement you see, every dating app you scroll, every influencer selling you the next solution to your supposed emptiness, it all works because you've been told you're incomplete. That if you're not surrounded by people, if you're not validated online, if you're not always connected, you're failing. They tell you you need a soulmate, you need more friends, you need to network, you need likes, followers, matches. But who told you that? The truth, you weren't born desperate. You were trained to be, because needy people are predictable. Needy people buy things. Needy people follow crowds. Needy people don't start revolutions. That man sitting alone at the cafe, he doesn't need approval. He doesn't need noise. He doesn't need to perform. And that's exactly why society labels him antisocial, weird, lonely. Because if too many people become like him, calm, clear, self-sufficient, the whole system starts to crack. The endless selling stops working. The mindless scrolling starts slowing. Let me ask you something. Who benefits from you believing you're not enough on your own? Who profits from your need to impress, to belong, to constantly be seen? You already know the answer. But now comes the hard part. If this lie is so deeply ingrained in everything, how do you unlearn it? You start by listening to those who already saw through it. Men who lived centuries apart, but both understood what it really meant to be dangerous. And one of them was the Emperor of Rome. Let's go there. Long before the age of smartphones, long before likes and retweets and social anxiety had hashtags, there were men who sat with their thoughts and found clarity where others found chaos. Marcus Aurelius and Friedrich Nietzsche, two men, centuries apart. One ruled the most powerful empire on earth. The other walked alone in the mountains, writing words that would outlive nations. Both were dangerous. Let's start with Marcus, the Emperor of Rome, a man who could command legions with a glance. Yet every evening he'd sit down with a candle and write to himself, not to his advisors, not to the public, to himself. In his journal, now known as Meditations, he didn't boast about conquests. He asked hard questions. What did I desire today that I didn't need? What did I fear that I couldn't control? Where did I betray myself to gain approval? This wasn't self-help fluff. It was war, internal war. Marcus wasn't building an empire. He was building a soul that couldn't be shaken. That is strength through solitude. Now, Nietzsche. The man most misquoted, most misunderstood, and maybe the most relevant. He wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe, not to be swallowed by the noise, the opinions, the traditions." He saw it clearly, that society doesn't fear the weak. It fears the man who can stand apart and think for himself. Nietzsche went further than Marcus. He didn't just want you to know yourself. He wanted you to create yourself, to break inherited values, to ask, why do I believe what I believe? Who benefits from me believing it? What would I believe if I started from zero? Most people don't want to go there, because when you strip away the noise, the tribe, the borrowed morality, you're left with a blank page. And that's terrifying. But to the dangerous man, that blank page, it's freedom. That's what these men discovered, alone, in silence, without applause. They understood. The man who doesn't seek to belong can't be controlled. The man who doesn't crave approval can't be bought. And the man who questions everything can't be fooled. So now, look around. Ask yourself, are your beliefs truly yours? Or are they relics passed down without consent? Are you living your life, or someone else's expectations? Don't answer yet, because to truly know, you'll have to go deeper. And that's exactly what we'll do. Inside the mind of the one they fear most. Let's stop looking from the outside and step into the mind of the man they fear, the loner, the one who doesn't need your approval because he's already made peace with himself. What's really going on in there? First, he's broken the addiction most people deny they have, approval. While everyone else is chasing likes, hearts, and double taps, he's chasing nothing, because he already respects himself. And that self-respect, it didn't come from compliments, it came from silence. You see, most people run from stillness. They panic when it's quiet. They need the noise, music, messages, updates, because without it, they'd have to face something terrifying, themselves. But the dangerous loner, he's been there. He sat in the 3 a.m. dark, when there's no one left to impress, and no one clapping. He's had conversations with his demons. He's faced the ugly truths, not just about the world, but about himself. And here's the twist. He didn't run. He stayed. He listened. He learned. That's why he's strong. Not because he's fearless, but because he stopped flinching when fear showed up. Now, there's something else, something most dangerous of all. He can't be manipulated. When you don't need people to like you, you don't fear their rejection. When you don't crave their praise, you don't fear their judgment. You stop doing things to impress. You stop saying things just to fit in. You stop pretending, and when you stop pretending, you become real. People don't know what to do with someone like that. Someone who walks away from drama, someone who doesn't bite at bait, someone who's immune to shaming, ghosting, gaslighting, guilt-tripping, because the loner has already lived through worse and came out clearer. Let me say this, most people don't fear being alone. They fear what aloneness will show them. But if you can face that, if you can make peace with the silence, you win. Not the kind of win they post about, not the status, not the followers, not the deals. You win the only thing that matters, your mind, your freedom. So, are you ready to turn inward? Are you ready to look your own reflection in the eyes and not look away? Because once you do, the games they play out here, they lose their power, and you become untouchable. There's a reason not many people choose this path. It's not because they can't, it's because it costs more than most are willing to pay. But for those who do, for those who stay in the silence long enough, who walk through the inner fire without turning back, something powerful takes shape. 4 pillars, not just traits, but foundations. That makes solitude not a weakness, but a fortress. Let's begin. Pillar 1, radical self-honesty. This one cuts because it forces you to stop lying to the mirror. No more pretending you're fine, no more blaming everyone else, no more dodging the truth. The dangerous man looks at himself with brutal clarity. What do I fear? What do I secretly want that I'm ashamed to admit? Where am I still performing for others? He doesn't ask these to feel better. He asks to get better. And that honesty, it becomes a shield. Because when you stop lying to yourself, you start seeing through the lies of others. Pillar 2, value, independence. Most people inherit their values like hand-me-downs. They believe what their parents believed, want what their friends want, chase what their culture told them matters. But not this man. He asks, does this value actually serve me? Do I believe this because it's true or because it's comfortable? He starts from scratch. He rebuilds his moral code, one idea at a time, not out of rebellion, but out of integrity. And when your values come from within, no one can shame you into submission. No one can guilt you into compromise. You live by a compass no one else controls. Pillar 3, emotional self-sufficiency. He's not cold. He's not disconnected. He simply doesn't depend on others to feel okay. He's learned to sit with his emotions, to breathe through pain without panicking, to feel fear without fleeing, to grieve without collapsing, to celebrate without needing an audience. It's not that he doesn't want love, it's that he doesn't need it to function. And that difference changes everything. Because when you're emotionally self-sufficient, you stop being manipulable. Pillar 4, intellectual courage. This one is rare because it demands you think thoughts most people run from. He questions the sacred. He doubts the popular. He investigates the obvious. And when he finds truth, even if it's uncomfortable, he holds it. He doesn't dilute it to fit in. He doesn't edit it to be liked. He doesn't abandon it when it costs him social points. He knows the truth will disturb before it liberates. And he's okay with that. Because freedom isn't found in comfort, it's found in clarity. Now let me ask you, which of these pillars are you building? Which one have you avoided? Radical honesty, your own values, emotional self-respect, courageous thinking, because once they're in place, you don't just survive solitude, you thrive in it. And when that happens, you're no longer playing the same game as everyone else. But make no mistake, this kind of power comes at a price, and that's where we're heading next. Let's not romanticize this, because choosing solitude, choosing to live on your own terms, it comes with a price, a high one, not the kind you pay in money, but in misunderstanding. People won't get you. They'll look at your silence and call it arrogance. They'll mistake your peace for sadness. They'll assume your distance means you think you're better than them. They'll project their fears onto you because your freedom exposes their cage, and that too makes them uncomfortable. You'll hear things like, "Why don't you talk more? Don't you want to go out and have fun? Are you okay?" Translation, "Why aren't you playing the same game we're all pretending to enjoy?" You'll lose relationships, not because you became toxic, but because you stopped being needy. And many connections, they were built on that need. Built on codependency, not compatibility, on shared escape, not shared depth. When you stop asking for validation, you stop being useful to those who needed you to stay small. It hurts, but it also reveals who's really there for you, and who was just there for the reflection of themselves in your attention. There will be moments when you feel not lonely, but isolated, and that's different. Loneliness says, "I miss someone." Isolation says, "No one understands this path I'm on." That kind of solitude, it's not empty, it's sacred, but yes, it's heavy. You'll look around and realize most people are operating on a different frequency. Chasing things you've stopped craving, panicking over things you've already made peace with, and sometimes that clarity feels like exile. But here's the deeper truth. The price of not doing this work, of staying normal, of chasing approval, of living someone else's idea of life, that price is your soul. Because when you ignore the quiet voice inside, the one that says, "This isn't who I really am," you begin to disappear, not publicly, internally, and that's the real tragedy. So yes, solitude has a cost, but conformity costs everything. Now, let's talk about why your freedom is so dangerous, not just personally, but to the system itself. You ever wonder why the world pushes so hard to keep you busy? Why silence feels like rebellion? Why slowing down feels wrong? Why choosing to be alone makes people uncomfortable? It's not an accident. Because when you stop playing the game, you become dangerous, not to people, but to systems. Let's break it down. Economically, our entire economy thrives on insecurity. Billions are made every day from convincing you that you're not enough, that you need this new outfit, that you need this new routine, that your face, your body, your lifestyle needs constant upgrades. But the self-sufficient man, he's not buying it. Literally. He doesn't need to prove himself through consumption. He's not chasing status symbols. He wears what's comfortable, uses what works, and spends less because he needs less. That makes him a bad customer. And in a world built on endless desire, bad customers are dangerous. Socially, the system depends on hierarchy, likes, followers, status, power by popularity. But what happens when someone walks away from all that? When someone no longer cares about being seen? When someone defines success internally, they become unpredictable. You can't shame them into submission. You can't cancel them into silence. You can't lure them with clout. They don't want the throne because they've already found peace on the floor. Politically, this is where it gets real. Governments thrive on groupthink, on crowds who can be nudged, swayed, scared, on people who vote with fear, not with thought. But the dangerous loner, he thinks, he doesn't shout. He doesn't follow, he watches, and then acts alone based on principle. You can't manipulate him with slogans, you can't control him with peer pressure, because he doesn't need to belong. And that, my friend, is a threat to any power built on mass compliance. Psychologically, your presence is a mirror. Your independence reminds others of their dependence. Your peace reflects their chaos. Your silence echoes the noise they're trying to ignore. You become a walking contradiction, a quiet challenge, a living question they can't unsee. Why isn't he playing the game? Is there something wrong with me for needing all this attention? Is it possible that I've been lied to? That's why they fear you, not because you're violent, but because you're free, and freedom is the rarest thing left. No, the question is, what do you do with that freedom? How do you turn solitude into strength, stillness into power, and clarity into action? Let's train for that. So now you know why they fear you, why solitude is dangerous, why choosing to stand alone is the most radical act left. But awareness is just the beginning. Now, we train, because solitude, true solitude, isn't just silence, it's skill, and just like any strength, it's built. Let me show you how. Step 1. Begin with stillness. No phone, no music, no podcasts, just you and your thoughts. Start small. 10 minutes, no distractions. Sit, breathe, listen. It'll feel uncomfortable at first, like you're missing out, like you're wasting time. But what you're really doing, you're building resistance, mental calluses, focus muscles. Stay with it. That restlessness you feel, it's your mind detoxing from noise. Step 2. The evening review. This is where Marcus Aurelius excelled. Each night he'd reflect, quietly, honestly. Ask yourself, what did I crave today that I didn't need? Where did I seek approval and compromise myself? What fear controlled me that I didn't face? Write it down, not for content, not for followers, for you. This isn't journaling, it's psychological weightlifting. Over time, you'll start to see patterns, and with awareness comes freedom. Step 3. Build a value system from scratch. Forget what they told you to care about. Forget what your culture worships. And what kind of person do I want to be? What do I consider honorable? What matters to me when no one's watching? And then live it quietly, daily, without applause. When your values are rooted in experience, not trend, you become unshakable. Step 4. Learn to enjoy your own company. Do things alone, not to prove anything, but because you want to. Take walks, read slowly, cook for yourself, create without audience. At first it'll feel empty, but eventually it becomes sacred. You'll begin to feel whole, not just fine, whole. And when you're whole, you stop chasing pieces. Step 5. Starve the validation addiction. This is the hardest, because it hides in plain sight. The quick check of notifications, the quiet hope for a compliment, the subtle flex in conversation. Catch yourself, not to shame, but to shift. Ask, do I need this, or am I just used to it? Over time, you'll replace the high of being seen with the peace of being real, and that is untouchable, because here's the truth. The world doesn't need more influencers. It needs more individuals. People who know who they are without a trending sound to back them. People who think without waiting to be told what to think. People who can walk alone, not because they're broken, but because they're finally whole. And that kind of person isn't just rare, he's revolutionary. Are you ready for the final truth, the paradox that changes everything? Let's go there. Here's the part they don't tell you, the part they don't expect, the twist in the story that feels almost unfair. When you stop needing anyone, people start showing up, not out of pity, not out of obligation, but because you've become something rare, a whole person. Let me explain. There's something magnetic about someone who's complete. Not perfect, not flashy, not loud, just grounded. When you don't chase, you draw in. When you don't beg for love, you attract respect. When you're not desperate to be understood, you're finally heard. Because people feel it, that you're not performing, that you're not trying to fill a hole, that you're not trying to be someone, you already are someone. It changes everything. Relationships, they improve. Because when you don't need someone to complete you, you choose them from clarity, not craving. Love becomes healthier. Friendship becomes deeper. Because it's not about fixing loneliness. It's about sharing wholeness. Work becomes more fulfilling. You're not trying to impress. You're focused on impact. You do good work because it aligns with you, not because it'll get applause. And ironically, That's when success often finds you, because people trust those who trust themselves. Life, it slows down, not in a lazy way, in a present way. You stop rushing through moments, you savor them. You sit with the sunset a little longer, you breathe deeper, you laugh without recording it. You stop living for the feed and start living from your core. But let's be clear, this paradox isn't a trick. You don't go into solitude to get something. You go in because it's the truth, because you're tired of noise, tired of proving, tired of running, and somewhere in that stillness you find your center. And from that center, everything else aligns. That's the paradox. When you don't need anyone, you become the one everyone wants near. Not because you chased it, but because you embodied it. Now we've come this far. You've seen what solitude really is. You've walked through discomfort, silence, strength, resistance, but there's one more step, the final piece, the part where you decide not just to understand this truth, but to live it. You made it, through the noise, through the questions, through the silence most people never dare to sit in. And now, you're here. Not just watching, but feeling. Not just hearing these words, but remembering something you always knew. That you were never broken for enjoying your own company. That needing less doesn't mean you're empty. It means you're full. That standing alone might just be the strongest position of all. So here's the truth. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to be seen to be valuable. You don't have to be liked to be dangerous. Dangerous not because you hurt others, but because you can't be controlled. Dangerous because your mind is your own, because your values are forged, not borrowed, because your peace doesn't depend on applause. This isn't just philosophy, it's a way of life, a rebellion that doesn't need a flag, just a mirror. So I have a challenge for you. Spend time, real time with yourself, not scrolling, not escaping, just you, your breath, your thoughts. See what shows up. See who shows up when you stop trying to be someone else. And if you felt something in this video, that tug in your chest, that whisper of, "This is who I've been all along," then don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Send it to the one friend who's felt different their whole life. Drop a comment below. Tell me one belief you've carried that you never chose. Tell me one way you've traded self-respect for validation and what you're reclaiming now. Because this isn't about me, it's about all of us. A quiet revolution. One whole person at a time, so stay dangerous. Not to hurt the world, but to heal it. By being one of the few who chose to stand alone, and in doing so, became unshakable.